After more than 100 videos and doing this for well over 2 years, I still haven't covered the area that we're in today, and that is downtown Vancouver. Downtown Vancouver is one of the most livable, interesting parts of our entire city, and if you're thinking of moving here, it's a destination that you should be thinking of when you're moving to Vancouver and looking at buying a home. We're gonna explore the area, why you might wanna live here, and why you may not wanna live here. That's probably the most important part, but also we're gonna explore the residential real estate market and exactly what the market is like in downtown Vancouver through the eyes of one of my latest listings here in downtown Vancouver. We're gonna go deep inside of it. I'm gonna share with you all types of insights about our real estate market. Let's get into it right now. My name is Sebastian Albrecht of the Living in Vancouver, BC team, and welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, you guessed it, this channel is all about moving to and living in Vancouver. And this week, just like every other week, I put out a video all about those topics. And so if you're looking for that information, you're in the right place. Today, we're covering what it's like to live in downtown Vancouver. And that's where we find ourselves today. So get ready to explore downtown Vancouver and figure out whether this is the right place for you and your family when moving to Vancouver. I always like to start these videos about neighborhoods by defining exactly where they are. I was a geography major in university, and so the place is really important to me. It's the context that is most important. So let's start there with talking about downtown Vancouver. And as you probably know, downtown Vancouver is a peninsula. Most of the ways into downtown, most of the ways most people get into downtown is over a bridge. And that area is generally known as downtown Vancouver. However, the area we are in is a subsection of that entire peninsula. There are 4 major neighborhoods on the downtown peninsula. That begins with the West End, it's Yaletown, it's Cole Harbour, and it is downtown. And so precisely where we're talking about is defined by a few different streets. And I'm going to show you on the map. But to the south, that would be Pacific. On the eastern side, is that right? Yeah, on the eastern side, it is Richards. And on the western side, it is Burrard. And then to the north, it would be Vancouver Harbour. Now, in the downtown peninsula, it's only 3.6 square kilometers with these 4 distinct neighborhoods. And there's roughly 120,000 people that live in the downtown peninsula. So this is a heavily populated area. So heavily populated, in fact, this is the densest populated area in all of Canada with almost 19,000 people per square kilometer. The only area that is more densely populated than this in North America is Manhattan in New York City, which has, I think it's over 28,000 people per square kilometer. But Vancouver's downtown has nearly 19,000 people per square kilometer. So this is a very densely populated area, which is important to understand and gives context to so many of the pros and the cons of living here, things that we're going to discuss a little bit later. But this neighborhood is distinct in itself. It has its own subsection. So this area of downtown Vancouver, the downtown neighborhood of downtown Vancouver, is just one of 4 neighborhoods, but there are sub areas within downtown as well. And so the area that we're most concerned with is the southern end. This is mostly the residential neighborhood of downtown Vancouver, and it borders to one side. To the south is the Beach District, to the east would be Yaletown, and to the west would be the West End. To the north is Water, but on the northern half of the downtown neighborhood, first we find sort of the social area, the party area, and then we get into a bit of a shopping district, and then we get into the financial district, the economic heart of the city of Vancouver. And those areas have progressively less and less in the way of residential. There are some condos, some apartment buildings, but for the most part, those apartment buildings and condos are to the southern end. They're south of Robson, but north of Pacific. And that's the area that we're primarily going to be talking about in today's video. So who lives downtown? Well, generally, this is information that's not really, I can't be all that precise on, because this isn't an area that is tracked by census data. But for the whole, in general, this is an area where you're going to find a lot of young professionals. There aren't too many people that are of an older generation. I mean, this isn't an area that predominantly people are going to choose if they have a family or to retire in. But there are people who will enjoy this area as being super central, kind of on the edge of a couple neighborhoods that people may choose to retire in or settle down in, but it's not generally going to be at the forefront of people's minds for those reasons. It is going to be an area that is generally attractive to people that are new to Vancouver, people that are wanting sort of their first place, that are starting their careers, that want proximity to all that downtown has to offer. And we're going to talk more about the pros and the cons of living in downtown. But for kind of as a generality, what you're going to find in downtown Vancouver is that the population is generally veers, fairly young. It's going to be much younger than you're going to find in an area like Kerrisdale or Dunbar or even the West End. So why would you want to live in downtown Vancouver? There's a lot of good reasons. And perhaps paramount of those reasons, it's really the central location. You're right at the heart of the city and everything is at your doorstep. This truly is a walkable lifestyle that you can have here in downtown Vancouver, or bikeable. There's so many bike routes, so many places to walk. As I said, just 3.6 square kilometers. So everything is within easy reach, and so many people living so close together. It means that there's a lot of shops and services and amenities that are here for you, because this is where there's the highest density of population. So BC Place Stadium, where the Whitecaps play and the BC Lions play, is not too far away. GM Place, or actually Rogers Arena now, I'm revealing just how old I am, but yes, Rogers Arena, where the Vancouver Canucks and the Vancouver Warriors play, is also not too far away. We're very close to the beach. We're very close to the seawall. And even within downtown Vancouver, there are also parks like Emery Barnes Park. I'm going to talk a bit more about parks in a bit. And then it's super easy to get outside of the downtown core. You hop onto the SkyTrain just down the street at the Yaletown station. That'll take you real quick out of the downtown core and get you to the airport if that's where you want to go. But the main point is just living downtown. Everything is here, everything that you could want. And to some degree, this could end up being a bit of a negative in that it would be so easy to spend money, so easy to get distracted by all the things that are out here and things to spend money on, things to do. To be honest, just thinking about it right now, I'm a little bit jealous. Now, I live in a very convenient part of the city, but this is really the ultimate. This is the place. If you want everything, if you want all of the amenities that living in a city of Vancouver size can offer, this is the place that you want to be. Whether you're thinking about living in downtown Vancouver or moving to another part of Vancouver and you're looking at purchasing a home, well, I am a real estate agent that's helped hundreds of families do exactly what you're trying to do. I can help you and your family find the right neighborhood and find the right home. Whenever you're ready, my contact information is right there on the screen, and be sure to reach out anytime. Now let's get back to the video. The next big pro is really about its walkability, and I touched on that a little bit in the last point. They do go hand in hand. This is such a central location. There are so many people that live so close together. So as a result, so many shops and services, so many amenities are here to cater to that population. And that means you really don't need a car. I am going to be talking about a listing that I have that doesn't have a parking stall. I did a video not that long ago about the possibility of living without a car in Vancouver. And if there's any place where that is possible, it is in downtown Vancouver, because of the density of population, because of just what is at your doorstep and how easy it is to get around. And then also on top of that, all of the alternative transportation opportunities that are here. A bus just drove past me. There's all types of Ubers and taxis all around. The SkyTrain is just down the street. It is, of course, dense and walkable and bikeable as well. So you don't need a car when you live in downtown Vancouver. Access to the outdoors is another big pro of living downtown. Yes, I did say a pro of living downtown is access to the outdoors. And that's pretty unusual for a downtown of a city of any kind of size in North America, or really anywhere in the world. But it's true, because you have Stanley Park at your doorstep. It's not technically in the downtown neighborhood. It is a little bit further at the other end of the West End, but it is reachable in an area that's just 3.6 square kilometers. You can easily walk to Stanley Park from downtown. But within downtown, you have Emery Barnes Park, where I started this video, and I was talking about the area. And then you also have a couple other parks that are just kind of on the edge. There's George Wainborn Park, which is technically in the Beach District, just south of downtown Vancouver. And then just to the east of downtown Vancouver, in Yaletown, you have David Lamb Park. And to the southern end and on the northern edge, you also have the seawall, or access to the seawall pretty easily. As I said, of course, you have Stanley Park, and then there's the beaches. Sunset Beach isn't too far away, and of course, English Bay Beach isn't all that far away as well. And not that Granville Island is really an outdoors park, but it is a bit of an access to the ocean. And you have False Creek to the south of downtown, and you have the Vancouver Harbor to the north and the mountains to the north. And then, of course, it's super easy to get out of downtown if you wanted to, and into the mountains, straight up into Whistler or over to Horseshoe Bay and getting onto the ferry to the Sunshine Coast or Vancouver Island. All sorts of places that you can go and get out of the density that you find here in downtown. But nature is a big part of living in downtown Vancouver, and why so many people love living here. The next big pro I find is the vibrancy. You gotta love the color and the variety that you can find, and the hustle and the bustle of downtown. If you don't like that, you're not gonna enjoy living in Vancouver, in downtown Vancouver. But if you thrive on that energy, this is a place that you're gonna really, really enjoy. This is a place that welcomes people from all around the world, and a place that so many people start their journey in Vancouver. Many of them also end up here because they enjoy it so much. But there is an energy because of the people that are here from all the different parts of the globe, and generally a younger energy as well. And because of the density of population, we're all kind of stumbling on top of one another. And this is a place in some other parts of Vancouver, when I pull out my video camera, people kind of look at me funny and wonder what I'm doing. This is a place that I'm doing this now in public, and people are barely looking at me because people are always kind of doing strange and unusual things. This isn't really all that unusual. In fact, a little bit earlier, I saw a guy dressed as a pirate, and not only he was fully committed, he actually had a peg leg and was dressed up in a full pirate's costume. I think he was getting a taco at a food cart. But you know, you never know in an area like this, kind of like Commercial Drive, a little bit like the West End as well. But this is an incredibly colorful area where there's so much diversity, so much variety, and it never really stops. And in fact, that can be a bit of a con as well, because if you don't like that diversity, if you don't like that color, then it's perhaps going to be a little bit too much for you. And it intensifies on the weekends as people come down to this area, because there is kind of the entertainment district that's part of the downtown core, and you get these people from other parts of the city and other parts of Metro Vancouver coming down here to have a night out. In particular, sort of younger men who, you know, want to have a good time and tend to drink a lot. And when they drink and they party, they're also going to be not super quiet. So if you want a peaceful experience, if you want a quiet experience, that's not what you're going to find in downtown Vancouver. But if you want color, variety, vibrancy, this is the place for you. And the last big pro about living in downtown Vancouver is the safety. And yeah, just like I was talking about the outdoors being a pro in downtown Vancouver, this is also unusual. You don't tend to find safety being a reason that people would want to live in a downtown core in North America. But it's true of Vancouver. Canada is an incredibly safe country. Vancouver is an incredibly safe city. And the downtown core is a safe part of Vancouver. For the most part, there is crime, and you do need to be concerned about crime. It's petty crime that you need to be concerned about because of the issues around homelessness, drug addiction, and mental illness. If I left this camera out on the bench here for a couple hours and I came back, that camera is going to be gone. If I left my bike locked up here, it's most likely going to be gone in a couple hours. If I leave my door unlocked to my car, it's probably going to be rifled through. But I have my car parked a couple blocks away. My laptop is in the back seat. And honestly, I don't mind. I'm not even thinking about that as a safety concern. I was walking along Granville Street a little bit earlier, and there's people from all different walks of life walking around and, you know, just enjoying a warmer cloud, or no, it is cloudy, but it's at least not raining, enjoying the day. And there's no reason to be concerned. I'm not worried about being mugged. I'm not worried about being harmed in any way. The worst thing that's going to happen is somebody perhaps does some drugs around you and perhaps asks you for some spare change. Now, it does change a little bit. The color does change a little bit, in particular along Granville when it is a Friday or a Saturday night. And as I said, being the entertainment district just a little bit further north in the downtown core, that is an area that so many people are coming to, and young men, when they're drinking, can get a little bit rowdy, and there are things that do tend to happen in that area sometimes. Most of it is just noise. Most of it is just, you know, essentially a dog that barks loud, but stuff can happen once in a while. You do kind of want to be aware of your surroundings. This isn't an area that I personally am concerned about my own safety at all. It does have an impact from the downtown east side that we're going to talk about a little bit. That issue around homelessness, drug addiction, and mental illness does have an impact in the downtown core, and you do notice it. It is part of the fabric of this neighborhood, and that can't be ignored. And that does bring with it a certain degree, an element of crime. But as I said, for the most part, the crime that you do experience in this area is petty crime, it's petty property crime, and you really don't need to be worried about your own safety. And that is a pro of living in this neighborhood, because people, for the most part, feel safe. Talking about homelessness is really a perfect time to start talking about the sponsor of today's video. And no, I'm not going to try and sell you on anything. What I'm doing is trying to raise money for charity. And this fall, I'm going to be traveling to Cambodia. I'm going to be doing a trek in Cambodia for about a week, putting myself through a really rigorous physical challenge in order to raise funds and awareness for women's shelters throughout Canada. Very specifically, I personally am raising funds for Union Gospel Mission's sanctuary program on the downtown east side. So I'm trying to help some of the most vulnerable people in our society. And if that's something that you feel moved by, I'm going to put a link in the description below, as well as the first comment. You can find a way to donate to the cause right there. I really do appreciate you considering it. Thank you so much. Now let's get back to the video. All right, so now let's talk about some of the reasons why you may not want to live in downtown Vancouver. And yes, as much as I love downtown Vancouver, there's some pretty obvious reasons why this might not be a place that that you want to live. So number one is the grit. And you may have picked up on it as I've shown you around and talked to you in different parts of downtown Vancouver. This is an area that has a close proximity to the downtown east side. And so the issues around homelessness, drug addiction, and mental illness are present. They're a little more obvious here than they are in other parts of Metro Vancouver. And they're not as obvious as they are in the downtown east side. And I think people that live in downtown that have chosen to live here may not sort of recognize how much a part or how obvious it is, while people who don't live downtown might think it's actually worse than it actually is. So there's a fair number of services that are provided in this area, whether they're safe injection sites or whether they're homeless shelters in the downtown core. And it's not just in the downtown east side. And so as a result, there are people with those issues throughout downtown. And it's not just specific to the downtown east side. The result of that is it's a little more in your face than it is in other parts of Metro Vancouver. And that might not be something that you're really all that comfortable with. And you might also find some of the issues around petty crime that I discussed towards the end of the pros section might be something that you're concerned. Like, it is a safe area, but it does mean you probably, well, you can't leave your car unlocked. But for that matter, you can't really leave your car unlocked in the neighborhood that I live in, which would be considered one of the safest neighborhoods in Vancouver. And you can't really leave your car unlocked anywhere because somebody is probably going to take advantage. We do live in a big city. It's not unique to living in the downtown core, but it is something, this grit and this issue around the homelessness is something that you want to be aware of. And this might be a serious con for you if you're thinking about living in downtown Vancouver. Right, so this specific neighborhood, this specific part of downtown is kind of in the crossroads of the downtown core. And for that reason, this would be a little bit of a con. We're not really Yaletown. We're not really the Beach District. And we're not really the West End. And we're not the Financial District. We're in this crossroads between these four areas. And as a result, this might not be the exact spot that you want to end up. But one of the pros of it that we're going to talk about in the residential part, in the real estate part of this video, is that things are a little cheaper here because of it being kind of at the crossroads of things and not really at the center of any one of those more branded neighborhoods that people are really seeking. So because of it being at the crossroads, it's not the one that everybody is really thinking about, that's at the top of their mind. And you may be seeking an experience in one of the other neighborhoods like Yaletown, like Cole Harbour, or the West End. So as we've gone over quite a bit, this area is incredibly dense. There's so many people living so close together. And of course, as a result of that, this isn't the quietest spot in the city. I mean, you probably have noticed as I've moved around from one spot to another, there's a lot of background noise. I'm assuming it's getting picked up by my audio here, but right now I'm just at one of the off-ramps of the Granville Street Bridge along Seymour. It's getting close to rush hour. There's a fair amount of traffic. I hear some motorcycles in the background. You'll hear sirens. You'll hear the odd person yelling or construction noise. And so all of this is happening at all hours of the day. It's not confined to rush hour. You're going to find at 2 a.m. there might be some guy on July 8th that's riding his motorbike through downtown Vancouver and really enjoys the loud noise. And that might drive you absolutely crazy. Or on a Friday night, as all the 20-year-olds are on the Granville Strip partying and heading home at the end of the night, that might drive you absolutely insane. Or the sirens that come along with that partying on a Friday or a Saturday night. And so this isn't an area that you come to for quiet and peace. You know, there are no quiet sections to buildings. The front is probably going to be just as loud and boisterous as the back. And to be honest, many people think that if you're higher up in a building, you're more likely to get it a little bit quieter. But sound does travel pretty much straight up the building. And there's not going to be a lot of difference whether you're on the 20th floor or whether you're on the 3rd floor. There is a difference, but it's marginal. There's a greater difference if you're set back from the street. So if there's some sort of overhang, if there's a large outdoor space that is just below you, that's more likely to block sound than just being up another floor. That generally does not block a lot of sound. So keep in mind, one of the downsides of living downtown is noise. So once again, another piece of so many people living together so densely with well over or almost 19,000 people per square kilometers, there's a lot of congestion in downtown Vancouver. And as I said, this is a very walkable neighborhood. There's a lot of people that, don't really find that they need a car in downtown Vancouver, but there's a lot of people that come to downtown Vancouver with cars, and there's still a lot of people that live downtown with cars. So if you want to get anywhere with a car, it can be actually pretty annoying. It's probably going to be faster for you to hop on a bike or even walk or run or whatever you want, or maybe take the SkyTrain or maybe take an Uber, but all of that's going to be faster than you actually getting down into your car and driving driving a kilometer or so to, I don't know, go to the movies or go to a Canucks game or head over to Main Street. All of those things, when you live in downtown Vancouver, it's kind of annoying to get into a car and get around. And there is congestion on these streets a lot. And on top of the congestion, on top of the cars, there's also a lot of construction that is happening a lot. And just walking around right now, there's a lot of construction on the roads. There's a lot of buildings being built, buildings being renovated, all sorts of stuff happening all the time. And that only adds to the congestion and would only add to the frustration of living downtown. But that is a part, an element of living here that you need to be ready for. And the very last con, I'm stretching a little bit here, I gotta be honest, but it's dogs. Everybody in downtown seems to own a dog and have a dog. And you wouldn't think with all these condos, all of these apartments, nobody living in houses, that people would have dogs, but they do. So if you don't like dogs, if you don't like the noise, if you don't like the dirt, that is something that you're gonna need to get a little bit used to if you live in downtown Vancouver, as just about everybody seems to. And so what it means is you gotta watch where you step, and you also probably don't see a lot of real grass. There's a lot of fake grass, just as an indication of how many dogs there are and the fact that they have to go outside to go to the bathroom. And it's, you know, a relatively small con. I personally love dogs. I'm a dog guy. I'm not a big fan of cats. I don't have a dog at the moment, but I did have a dog up until my son was about 2 years of age. And I have a very soft spot in my heart for dogs. Absolutely love them. But if you're not a fan, this might be a place where you're not going to feel super comfortable. So let's talk about residential real estate in downtown. And I want to take you on a tour of my latest listing. And from that, we're going to learn a lot more about real estate in this area. But let me just give you an overview in general. And specifically in this area, we're going to find condos and townhouses. We're not going to find houses and half duplexes. So we don't even have to talk about what those prices look like. But in the spring of 2025, and it's verging on the summer now, it's the beginning of June, condos in this area are $672,500. That's down 5.7% over the last year. Townhouses, on the other hand, are $1,109,500. And that's down a pretty substantial 12.8%. And we have seen weakness in the downtown area over the last few years. And it began really before COVID, as we saw a cutback on foreign buyers and we saw fewer people wanting to live downtown with COVID. We saw an exodus to less densely populated areas. And something that I think has been happening is we're also creating alternative downtowns. It used to be, if you wanted to be in an urban environment, if you wanted to be around all this hustle and bustle, the only place you could be in Metro Vancouver was downtown Vancouver. But now we're creating downtowns in Metrotown, in Brentwood, in Lougheed, Coquitlam Town Centre, in Port Moody, in Surrey City Centre. So there's all these alternative areas. And it's not just where it becomes desirable to live for an urban experience, but it's also where investors are putting their money. And they're looking at those other burgeoning, growing areas as perhaps alternatives to this particular area. And then the other thing I think that's been happening since COVID in the last couple of years is a perception that this area is becoming increasingly unsafe, that this is an area that is being burdened with the impact of homelessness, drug addiction, and mental illness. And I can't entirely disagree, but I don't think that this is an area that has become unsafe. As I was talking about downtown being a safe place, this is an area that has an issue with petty crime, with petty property crime, but so many parts of Metro Vancouver and the city of Vancouver have issues around that. This is not unique to downtown Vancouver, and it's certainly not an area where I think there's a risk to you personally of being harmed in any way. So these declines, I really do think, are a bit of an opportunity. When I've been asked recently where I think there's an opportunity for people to get good value and a good deal, this is the neighborhood that I think might be at the very heart of that opportunity. This isn't going to last forever in my view. I think the desirability, the cachet of living downtown in and around the downtown peninsula, and I'm not just talking about the downtown neighborhood, but I'm including the downtown neighborhood in that is going to return. It's bound to return. And personally, I don't see why, you need to move to Metrotown or to Brentwood when there are affordable options in downtown Vancouver. And that's something that's worth exploring. In general, I would say that there's 3 different types of buildings that we find in the downtown area. Number 1 are buildings built from the 80s through the 90s. And these are buildings that generally are obviously a little bit older. They may not have parking included. They might not have in-suite laundry. They may not be rain screened, but predominantly these are going to be concrete, solid buildings. And these are buildings like 950 Drake, 1333 Hornby, and 789 Drake. So you see a number of these buildings. There's a handful of them and a good opportunity to find something which is a stronger value in downtown Vancouver. And these are really good value. And they're also unlikely to have in-suite laundry. So because of the lack of parking and because of the lack of in-suite laundry, prices are really driven down. And you see that studios are in the $400,000 range, one bedrooms are $500,000 to $550,000, and two bedrooms maybe in the $700,000 to $750,000 range. So I find that quite often people are a little bit surprised that you could own real estate in downtown Vancouver for prices in that kind of neighborhood. And you just need to open your eyes a little bit and see what the opportunities are. And the listing that I have in this neighborhood is one of the premier opportunities, I think, one of the best values in this category of what's available in downtown Vancouver, but I'll get more into that in a little bit. And the second type of building that you're going to find are buildings built from the late 90s into the 2010s. And these buildings are pretty good quality. They were built primarily for first-time buyers and for investors, and they're bare bones, no frills. There can be decent amenities. This second group of buildings does have in-suite laundry, does have parking, may not have a concierge, but they definitely or generally will have a certain level of amenities, whether it's a gym, a pool, a hot tub. There are some amenities that these buildings come with, and they are of good quality. So you have buildings like 1255 Seymour, the Elan. You have 1155 and 1199 Seymour, the Brava. You have 1082 Seymour, the Frisia, and the 501. All excellent buildings, and prices are generally around $500,000 for a studio, $600,000 to $700,000 for a one bedroom, and in the $800,000 to $900,000 range for a two bedroom. And then finally, you have the luxury buildings that have been built from 2020 and onwards. And these are buildings that have luxury finishings. They most likely have air conditioning. They most likely have a pool, a gym, a concierge, really finely finished to it. Exquisite quality, but they may not, in the smaller units, they may not come with parking. Only the larger units will have parking included. And these are also buildings where you can quite often find three-bedroom units. And when you're looking at luxury, this starts to become much more common. This is not something that was built in the 80s through the 2010s in downtown Vancouver generally, but started to be built as we were building more luxury buildings. And you can find some three bedrooms in these luxury buildings. Buildings like 1289 Hornby, that's one Place, 1111 Richards, that would be 8X on the Park, and 889 Pacific, the Pacific, as well as 1335 Howe, and all supremely luxurious buildings if you're looking for that. So you're looking to spend between $800,000 and $900,000 on a one bedroom, $1.2 to $1.4 million on a two bedroom, and $1.5 million and upwards on a three bedrooms. And that can be closer to $2 million. Now, it really does depend on the kind of square footage involved. So you can see there's a multitude of options in downtown Vancouver, and that is something for every budget that draws people into this area, and a variety of people from all walks of life, from all economic opportunities, finding homes in the downtown core. And this is true as well of renting. And there are less expensive opportunities and more expensive opportunities. You're looking like at a minimum somewhere in the $2,200 range for a one bedroom, but that is more likely at the higher end of the $2,000 range. If you're looking for in-suite laundry, if you're looking for parking, and if you're looking for a building that has some amenities, you're most likely looking closer to $3,000, but below that number. And if you're looking at the luxury buildings, you're more likely in the $4,000 plus range for a one bedroom because of just how much money those units cost. And so a big range, anywhere sort of from the low 2000s to well above $4,000 for a one bedroom, gives you an idea of what it costs to rent in downtown Vancouver as well. All right, so that gives you a general idea of what the real estate market is like here in downtown Vancouver. But let's get more specific. Let me take you on the inside of my latest listing at 607 789 Drake. And I want to show you exactly what it's like living in downtown Vancouver from the inside. But I also want you to understand some of the takeaways, some of the things that we can learn about the real estate market, about living in downtown Vancouver from this very specific example. So let's get inside on that listing right now. So now we're inside this fantastic downtown one bedroom condo. This is a new listing of mine at 789 Drake. It's unit 607, and it's priced just at, I think what you're going to find quite surprising, under $550,000 for 585 square feet. In fact, it's 529 square feet. And this is a really solid building. There's a lot going for it. There's a couple things that keep the price in this unit, in this building, down, but I think it's one of the best values that you're going to find anywhere in the downtown core, and really in Vancouver for that matter. And so if you're looking for an opportunity to purchase something in the city of Vancouver and you're thinking that prices are too high, well, I think this is a good place to start. And I'm going to explain to you exactly what's going on in this building and why we've priced it where we have, and some of the things that we can take away from this listing that apply to our market in general. So let me show you around. Right now, I'm in the living room bedroom. And this is a really spacious, very well appointed space, 585 square feet, as I mentioned. So you have this massive couch here on one side. There's 2 balconies in this condo. It's something that I really love. And if you've been watching this for a while, you'll know that I really like corner condos. And it's rare that a 1-bedroom is going to be placed in the corner. Usually it's the larger units that are on the sides, and then they put the smaller units in the middle. And so you only have one outlet so often. But you'll see behind me there can we see it? Yep. There's another balcony because we're on the corner here, which I think is a really special feature. And you'll also notice this building is a little bit older. So it was built in 1989. And so you have these features that you get in older buildings and not necessarily in newer ones. You also have a dining space here, which is really, really nice. So a full dining table, and you got this pass through. At some point that would have been closed off, but it was renovated before these owners purchased. And so you can see right over there, that's been opened up. And let's take a look at the kitchen, which that's the entrance that you come through right here. But the kitchen here, you got your fridge, you got your stove, you have an undermount sink, and you have a dishwasher as well. And you have some nice Corian countertops. You got some upgraded cabinets here, dual tone, which is a little more popular these days, of course. And you also have pot lights, something that would have been updated and included. And this is a smooth surface ceiling. So that's not the case throughout, but you do have upgraded lights and you have upgraded floors. This is an engineered hardwood floor as well. And so this is definitely not original condition. This has been upgraded, and you're getting all of this for under $600,000 and well under $600,000. So corner unit, full 1-bedroom. You got extra space for the dining. You have complete renovation throughout, really stylish space. You also have a really solid building. And that is something you've heard me talk about over and over again. And that is, think about the quality of the building, that the building you're purchasing is your biggest asset and your biggest potential liability. And you don't want a massive liability. And so 789 Drake is one of those buildings that has had a lot of work done, and they've rain screened the building. They've redone plumbing. They've redone the roof. They've redone all the windows and the doors. There's a long list of upgrades that have happened since the building was originally completed. And that means, it's like an old car that needs to be serviced and upgraded. And this is a car that has been well maintained, and it is a really excellent value. And here we go into the bedroom, and this master bedroom is good size. It's not massive, but it's got what you need. There's even he has a desk in one corner so that he's able to work from home. And then there's a really good size, queen size bed in here. There is your second balcony. They're allowed to store some stuff here. So there is no storage locker that comes with the unit, or really, in fact, in the building at all. And you kind of got to make use of the space that you have. And here, as you can see, we have a nice closet, good size closet in behind me, tons of storage space in there. And what else do we have? Oh, I did want to mention, so no storage outside of the building, but you do have in-suite storage. And let's take a look over here at what the in-suite storage looks like. I think it's roughly about 3 feet by 5 feet. This isn't huge, but it's really nice to have. This is super safe. The problem with storage lockers that are down in the basement is quite often they're not all that secure, and sometimes they're not all that dry. And in this particular case, this is super convenient. You don't have to go anywhere. It's right here. And of course, you can make sure that everything is nice and safe in your storage there, and it's very, very dry. So with all this going for it, why are prices in this building and for this unit so much lower than they are elsewhere in downtown Vancouver? And there's a couple reasons for it. Number one, there is no parking that comes with this unit. And I've talked about parking more recently in my videos and talked about whether or not it's something that's really all of that important, whether or not you should be looking at purchasing a place without parking and therefore getting a lot more value without that parking. And located here in downtown Vancouver, this is one location where you're probably not like the least likely place that you absolutely have to have a car. This is an incredibly walkable, bikeable neighborhood. Everything is within arm's reach. And this is a prime location not to have a car. But even if you did have a car, what this building has is parking in the building. This is an older building that does have parking, but the strata owns all of the parking. So if you need a parking stall, like the current owner, they're renting a parking stall currently for $70 a month. And that's pretty good value. That's not a considerable amount of money. And so you may find, rather than spending $650,000 on a 1-bedroom condo in downtown or in Yaletown, or $750,000 that comes with parking, you might be able to sacrifice owning that parking stall and then getting a really good building and good space that works for you as a result. The other reason that this building is priced lower than other buildings that you'll find is that there is no in-suite laundry. And so some units in this building actually do have in-suite laundry, but this unit does not. And as far as we know, you're not allowed to have in-suite laundry, and that's not going to be allowed by the strata. So people are stuck with it. You have shared laundry in the building, not allowed to have in-suite laundry. And that can be a big differentiator in value. There's a lot of people, especially first-time buyers, who this property is going to appeal to, are thinking, if I move into a place, if I buy my own place and I spend $500,000, $600,000, $700,000, the one thing I absolutely want to make sure of is that I have my own in-suite laundry. I don't want to go into shared laundry space. But there's so many people where that's not really a big deal and they don't really care. I mean, so what if I go down to the nice, clean, shared laundry room and do my laundry? It's not that big a deal, and I'm happy to do it, especially if it saves me $100,000, $200,000 in the purchase price. So it's really those two issues. Well, I guess it's really three things. It's a little bit of an older building, although so many things in this building have been done. So it's essentially a much newer building. The lack of the in-suite laundry, and then no owned parking. Those are the three things that kind of keep the prices here down. But I would point out to people, you don't have to move to Surrey or to Langley or to Coquitlam to get prices down. There are opportunities in the city of Vancouver if you're looking to work within a specific budget where you can find things that could work and you don't have to sacrifice the quality of the building. And I think that's a real key component of a place like this. One other thing I wanted to talk about, I'm struggling to open the massive sliding door here. They have really nice sliding doors. All the windows, as I said, and the doors have been renewed. So I'm out here on the second balcony, and as you can see behind me, there's a fair amount of space between this building and everything around it, at least on this corner. That would be south, that would be east, and that would be west in that direction. So you have really nice exposure here. This is the side you're going to want to come to in the summer months and be able to suntan out here, maybe have a little bit of a barbecue, a couple chairs, and enjoy the sun. It's not the sunniest day right now. It's kind of hard. It's a bit overcast, kind of hard to tell where the sun is. A couple days ago, it was amazing. It's the end of May right now, and we had a day that was 26 degrees. I took my kids down to the beach. Stunningly beautiful day. A little bit unusual to be that hot that early in the year. Right now, it's about 20 degrees, and it's supposed to be around that for the next week or so, and increasingly sunny. But you'll notice right here, we have this space, and this is kind of unusual in downtown Vancouver, and something that I really like. And privacy on this side of the building. You're not sharing this balcony with anybody. There's no other unit right beside you or no other balcony. And then distance between you and the buildings around. And this building right here, more than likely at some point is going to be torn down, but you have these, an idea of the size of building that could be built here. It's unlikely that that's going to be a massive tower. So you're generally going to have a little bit of distance between you and the buildings around you. All of this sun, all of this light coming here is really something that I personally really think is special about this place. And you'll also notice that the streets around here, we're just on one side we have Hornby, and on the other side here we have Granville. And so there's a couple busier streets around, but right below us, Drake is traffic calmed. And so it's a bike route. It's one direction. This isn't a super busy area. Yes, on weekends, it's going to get a little bit noisier and more boisterous, but in general, this isn't like the busiest section of downtown Vancouver that you're going to find. So lots of nice points about this particular location and things to think about when you're looking at other condos and other homes throughout Metro Vancouver, and specifically in downtown Vancouver. Well, I never showed you the bathroom actually, and there's nothing super fancy about this bathroom. It's all been upgraded though. Nice sink, toilet, shower / bathtub. It's not a deep soaker tub that looks like an original tub, but essentially it is very useful. It's had updates, nothing really that you need to worry about. And again, that's something that's really nice these days when you're coming into owning a home. The cost of any kind of updates is very, very high. So many people are now being attracted to the idea of like, I just want to move into a place that I don't want to do work. I don't want to be worried about what the cost of tariffs are going to have, how that is going to impact my cost of ownership over time. And even these very simple renovations can be really problematic, very, very much a hassle, especially if you're having to deal with the strata and getting approval and then getting permits from the city. And on top of that, trying to find somebody who's going to do this for a price that you're going to be comfortable with. And more frequently these days, these sort of finished turnkey opportunities are the things that are selling much more quickly than the types of properties, even when they're simple renovations, that are going to require a lot of work to bring them up to modern standards, right? So here, once again, that's not something you need to worry about. Somebody else has dealt with that, all of that ahead headache, and you get to move into a place that is really modern, really fresh, and a beautiful space and an excellent value. All right, so that's the end of the tour of downtown Vancouver. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope at the end of this video, you have a better understanding of whether or not you'd want to live in downtown Vancouver, if this is the right place for you based on all those pros and cons and what the real estate market is like here and what it actually feels like living here. That's the idea of these videos, to give you a better understanding of moving to and living in Vancouver. And if you are thinking of moving here or within Metro Vancouver, I am a real estate agent that can help you and your family not only find the right neighborhood, but find the right home. So if you're moving here, you're thinking of buying a place, be sure to reach out. My contact information is right there on the screen. Reach out anytime. But of course, as always, if you're not quite ready to do that, that's totally cool. I have well over 100 videos to help you figure out whether this is the right place to live or any other place in Metro Vancouver. So be sure to check out that massive back catalog of videos. That's all there just for you. And if there's one video that I could suggest watching after watching this video, it's a video I did not that long ago all about the best family neighborhoods in Metro Vancouver, and that is linked right there. Be sure to check out that video. Thank you so much for watching this one, and I'll see you on next week's video.